aim to get a TBR done, but somehow it just never seems to work. The one time that I had fun making a TBR was when I did the M&M game, and I am gonna do it again. TBRs are hard for me to stick to, but this time I'm giving myself grace to actually know that it's okay if I don't finish the books this time around, but I will do my best to get the books that I pick done. I'm hoping that 5 is a solid goal. I've done 5 in a month before, even when I was busy, so I'm hoping 5 is a relatively solid goal, so that's what I'm picking out. I have home brand version of M&M's. I have a lot of books in my bookshelf I haven't read yet. If you don't know what the M&M game is, essentially I have the colors at the top and down the side for the M&M colors, and I will pick out 2 which will correspond to a color at the top, then a color down the side, and that book will be the book. I have a weird sneaky suspicion that the last M&M game I did was also in October. It just must be that the month for me to do the M&M TBR is October. Just my favorite month to do it, apparently. Color number 1. Orange. Orange at the top. This is my row. Orange and... so excited. Blue. Orange at the top and blue. We are all the way down here. Justice Betrayed. Justice Betrayed by Patricia Bradley. Memphis Cold Case, and if you couldn't already tell with this guitar on the front, essentially this book comes down to it's Elvis week in Memphis, hooray, and an Elvis impersonator comes to our main character, Detective Rachel Sloan, and shows her a picture of her mother right before she was murdered, apparently, with several Elvis impersonators. And he wants help because his friend was one of the Elvis impersonators who died shortly after the photo was taken. So yeah, lots of Elvises and a murder mystery. It sounded like so much fun. It's part of a series, a Memphis Cold Case novel, and there's also a romantic love interest, Lieutenant Boone Callahan. So, you know, Christian romance suspense. It's my classic go-to. Okay, book number 2. Red. And number 2. Orange. Red and orange. Face of Betrayal. Face of Betrayal by Liz Wheel. So... that almost sounded like it could rhyme if I said it right. So this is a triple threat novel. It's also part of a series, triple threat series, where we follow a federal prosecutor, FBI agent, and a criminal journalist, all teamed together in these books to solve crimes. A 17-year-old girl who works in the political scene. I don't know a lot about American politics, but she's called a Senate page, and she is in the political scene and she goes missing, and they've got to figure out what's going on and if she was killed or if she's just gone, and etc, etc, etc. So far, 2 crime books. I have a lot of fantasy in my collection too, so I'm hoping that it won't all be a month of crime. October, the month of crime. Okay. All right. Green and yellow. Oath of Honor. And there's also a crime book. I am 3 for 3 right now. Oath of Honor by Lynette Eason. So this is a Blue Justice novel. It is the first book in the Blue Justice series. I love Lynette Eason. She is a fabulous writer. So this sort of has a Blue Bloods feel. If you've seen the show Blue Bloods, where main character Isabel, or Izzy St. John, is part of a law enforcement family, but her partner gets murdered and there's potentially a big conspiracy involved with people on the take. And all sorts of really shadowy things happening. And of course, she has a secret crush on a guy. If it genuinely comes out as a month of crime, I will laugh. Okay, book number 4 in my 5-book TBR. Green, again, and red. Seconds to Live. Another crime book. So many on here are fantasy. Seconds to Live by Suzanne Sleeman. That's how I'm saying it. So essentially, a brilliant hacker hacks into the witness protection database and starts selling off names, and the FBI main character, FBI agent Sean Nichols, has to try and find the hacker, who he believes is a mysterious hacker called the Phantom, who is very skilled, and also try and protect the witnesses whose names are being leaked. It's part of a series, The Homeland Heroes, and it's book 1. So it's sort of more on the lines of Homeland Security type books. Okay, this is the last book for my TBR. Number 5. I'm really hoping it's a fantasy book and not a crime book. Month of crime. Here we go. Last book. Here we are. Okay, red. We have red. Let me see red. Okay. They are all fantasy down red. Hooray! And green. So my final book is Synapse, and yes, it is a fantasy book. The final book, thank goodness, was a fantasy, is Synapse by Stephen James. I am so glad that the final book was a fantasy book. There was so many fantasy on this board, and I really want to read a lot of the fantasy, but I'm glad to get the crime ones. So if you could imagine Blade Runner, if you've seen Blade Runner, or my comparison with the book versus the movie video, but if you've seen Blade Runner, it sort of has a similar element in that people and artificial intelligent robots which look human live side by side. In Blade Runner though, they were adversary. However, in this one, we all live side by side and everything is hunky-dory. However, the main character, Kestrel, I think is how you say that name, witnesses a terrorist attack and has to try and figure out what the heck is going on with her artificial, which is Jordan, and then also Jordan starts to be asked and starts to try answering questions that artificials weren't really ever supposed to be asked. So apparently there is this weaving of faith and what it really means to be human. I'm going to pick out 2 backup books. Yellow and Yellow. Fatal Trust, which is incidentally also a crime book. Fatal Trust by Todd M. Johnson, about Ian Wells, who is a lawyer who is looking after his mother with Alzheimer's, and he gets a very interesting offer from a client who is going to pay him a large sum of money to decide if 3 brothers are worthy of getting an inheritance. But soon he discovers that there is ties to criminal organizations and mysteries that date back to Prohibition, it says. So there is a huge network of things that are happening in this book, and this poor lawyer, he has to try and navigate this and not get pulled into potentially doing illegal things. So we will see. Blue and yellow. The Jazz Files. The Jazz Files by Fiona Veitch-Smith. That's how I'm saying that. It is a Poppy Denby Investigations book. It's a series. I believe it is book 1. So this book is set in the 20s with our main character, Poppy, who is trying to be a investigative journalist. She's trying to be a journalist in the 20s with flappers and all sorts of crazy things that are going on. And just as she joins a newspaper, the Daily Globe, the Daily Planet, I think they're trying to sort of do a 20s version of Lois Lane without Superman, I'm assuming. The reporter she's taking over from was killed, and she now has to finish his story. And I think when I bought it, I just watched the Blue Butterfly episode of Castle, which is when they go back and they have a mystery from, you know, back in the day, and it was very time period-y. And so at the time I was very into it, and I think also Smallville did one. It was just a big thing apparently with a bunch of these shows. Well, that's my TBR for October. I'm excited. If I would have picked a lot more fantasy, and my crime would have sat on the shelf getting dusty. So I am glad that I did end up with majority crime books, because they were my first love in reading, and it's nice to go back to the beginning. But I am excited as well to have at least one fantasy book. All of these guys are Christian fiction, which is, you know, my main bread and butter that I like to read. Thank you for watching. Let me know what's on your TBR as well if you are so inclined. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the adventures.